Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Remote Control Sports. Before we get into today's episode, please like and subscribe. It takes 2 seconds. It's right down there. Click that like button, click that subscribe button. It helps us out so much. Okay, now that that's out of the way, on today's show, we've got an interview with WGNO sports reporter Richie Mills. Can't thank Richie enough for his time. We're also going to figure out who is the better Richie. Is it Solaris or is it Mills? Stay tuned for that. We've also got our top three most obscure college football players of all time to wrap up the show. Let's roll the intro. All right, welcome to the show, everybody. I'm John Sartori. Today we've got Richie Solaris.
Howdy.
Dylan Domang.
What up?
And Jermaine Kelly.
How's it going?
Gabby was supposed to join us, but she has work. Guess we know where her priorities lie.
Tragic.
Really tragic. All right, let's start with the top story of the day. The NBA G League picking up possibly its two biggest players of all time. Two five-star recruits are headed to the G League instead of college. What does this mean for college basketball, Jermaine?
Well, they're obviously in trouble if you're losing top recruits. It'll be different if you're losing like 2 or 3 star recruits, but these are like your top guys you have coming into Division I basketball. And I think for those guys, if you aren't like the best student and you just want to go and focus on basketball and make a little money and then get into the NBA, it's a good idea. But I think they should like take into account life after basketball. Most guys, the average basketball player doesn't finishes their career like mid-30s, late 30s. You have an entire life after that. So like you have to think like ahead, but like for right now, if you want to just play some basketball, make some money and not worry about like school and stuff like that, this is like a great path for you.
It's Jalen Green is the big one. I couldn't remember the names during the start of this conversation, but Jalen Green is the big one. There was also a guy who decommitted from Michigan. I have to get his name while someone else is answering because I'm terribly unprepared. But your argument, Jermaine, Dylan, don't you think that this is similar to baseball? You know, you've got your top prospects that go straight to the pros. I don't think this is as big a deal as people are making it out to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of like players just are grow up watching players like LeBron James and Kobe Bryant come out of high school. And obviously it's not the same because they went straight into the NBA and not going into the G League, but they're only doing this so they don't have to go to college. And like Jermaine said, it's going to hurt them to not have a college education in the future, but you still have to have a year out of high school to be in the NBA. That is still the NBA rules. You still cannot play in the NBA until you are a full year out of high school. So I don't necessarily agree with these decisions because I would like to see these kids go to college, even if it is a one and done, like most of these players would have done anyway. But I think this is going to open the door to more 5 stars and even 4 stars. You know, I really don't think you're going to see any 2-star, 3-star ever go straight to G League because that potential is not there. And they're going to go to college to continue to grow into their body, into their athleticism, all that kind of stuff. But this is going to open the door far down the line for more 5 stars and 4 stars to just skip college and go to the G League, which is going to hurt these big schools that are recruiting them.
Isaiah Todd is the other player. But, okay, what are you really learning in 1 year? Basically 1 semester because you're playing that other semester. What are you learning in 1 year? There's nothing positive coming from this, from that college experience.
Well, I'll say I'm going to kind of disagree with you, Dylan, because they can still go back to college anytime they want. They can go, they can make the money. I mean, Jalen Green can make up to $250,000 next year. I wasn't even making $250 when I was 18. That's a ton of money, but I think that there's a bigger factor in this that we're not looking at. I don't think he's just going for the money. I think that this is a direct result of the James Wiseman situation. I mean, look at that. Wiseman got screwed by the NCAA. He lost that entire year. If he would have just went into the G League, he would have made money. He would have had experience. He wouldn't have had to go through this whole process with the NCAA. I think 5-star recruits are going to look at what happened and just say, you know what? I'm not going to risk it. I don't want to deal with the NCAA. I don't want there to be repercussions. I don't want to go to college for a year only to find out that, I can't play basketball. So I'm just there for no reason when I just want to go to the NBA. If they want to better their lives, they can do that after their careers. Now, granted, the best time to go to college is usually out of high school. But when you've got an opportunity to make money and make a career for yourself, I mean, that's why you go to college, to make a good career for yourself so you can, thrive in your life. I think it's a smart decision. But again, I think this is coming from the NCAA's screw up with James Wiseman.
You're talking about James Wiseman. I think a big thing, another person that people look up to is Mitchell Robinson. Mitchell Robinson's a guy who's right now he's starting for the Knicks. He didn't go to college. He went to college for one day and dropped out and started his further career to go to the NBA. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, and all he did was practice and prepare and train for that whole year. So that's all this is going to be for those two recruits. It's just going to be a whole training session for them. And they're going to get a chance to play in the G League against basically the same level of competition they were going to play in college anyway.
Why has the G League not done this? In the past, where they say, look, we can give you thousands of dollars and you can play professional basketball. Why has this not been a route before?
I'm not really sure. It should have just been like anything like baseball is the G League is just a minor league of the NBA, and they should have been. And this is something that recruits should have taken into mind. And this is something that has kind of come up after what, Dallas has kind of talked out. Mark Cuban came out and said, I think it's best if recruits go play in Europe for a year, go play professional basketball in Europe for a year, and then they get drafted into the NBA. I think there's two options now. You can go to Europe or you can go to G League. And I think college is going to start becoming a less of an option for some of these recruits.
The one thing I could see as a reason why the G League wouldn't advertise that is that they don't want to get the stigma that, they're telling kids not to go to college, because a lot of non-sports fans would hear about that and look at it as them saying, look, they don't want these kids to go to college. They'd just rather them go play sports, and they don't want to deal with that drama and people just berating the G League. I mean, I could absolutely see something like that happening. So, you got to take that into account.
All right, from 18-year-olds who are much richer, we move to an adult who's much richer. Christian McCaffrey is now the highest-paid running back in the history of football. Richie, I start with you. What do you take away from this deal? Is it deserved?
Well, two things. One, it is absolutely deserved. If Lamar Jackson had not done what he did last year, Christian McCaffrey to me would have been the hands-down MVP. He
didn't make the playoffs.
Everything doesn't matter. What he did was incredible.
What would they go? 6-10, 7-9?
And you're gonna blame that on Christian McCaffrey?
It doesn't matter. He can't be the most valuable player in the world if his team had a losing record.
That team would have been 2-14 without Christian McCaffrey, and you know it.
I'm not saying that that's not the case, but if we're arguing that, then how was Peyton Manning not the MVP every year? How is Drew Brees not the MVP every year? We can make this argument with every team in the league. Oh, well, if they didn't have this guy, they'd be so much worse. Every team has that guy. And we're kind of getting off a tangent. I apologize. That's my fault. I take full responsibility. Back to you.
The point is, it's incredibly well-deserved. Christian McCaffrey is a top 5 player in the NFL. He can do everything. He is that offense. And the reason why he got this much is because the Panthers see him as more than just a running back. He literally does everything. The Ezekiel Elliott deal, $15 million a year, that was incredible. Now, Zeke is great, but he does not have the skill set that Christian McCaffrey does. He's so versatile. So I would say that he very much earned that deal. The second takeaway is, he came from that, the 2016 NFL class with a lot of other running backs, Leonard Fournette, Dalvin Cook, and Kareem Hunt. They're all going to look at this deal and say, hey, look, I may not have his skill set, but I'm good. They're going to want that money. And I think, they are not going to get anywhere near that, including Alvin Kamara. And I think you might see a mass exodus of those running backs. Either that or they're going to get stuck in a situation like Le'Veon Bell where they get franchise tag and just want to get traded.
But I think a lot of this has to do with the precedent that Joe Flacco set years ago, becoming the highest paid quarterback in the league. Once you have a highest paid guy, you're automatically going to have to pay the next guy more. So do we think that a running back who is not near that McCaffrey skill set and value, do you think that we're going to see a 68 to a $70 million deal to a guy who's not even a top 10 running back in the league coming soon?
No, I don't think that, but I see those running backs trying to get those deals at least.
I see it happening. Now not to a top 10 running back, but I like a top 10 running back. You don't have to have a top 3 running back, but I think a top 10 running back definitely gets a contract like that just because that team can afford it. It's going to come from a big market team. But think of like Matthew Stafford. Then Matthew Stafford goes and gets the highest contract for a quarterback. And then a guy, like Kirk Cousins gets it. And you wonder why other guys who are more deserving of it don't get it. But I think just because a team really wants a player, especially when it comes to free agency, if a team's going to re-sign a player, I don't think that's where it's going to come from. It's going to come from free agency, where some team's just going to throw a lot of money at a guy like a Dalvin Cook or an Alvin Kamara or something like that. That's just going to be impossible to resist. And they know they don't deserve that money. I mean, they do. But all of us are going to say, he doesn't deserve that money, but he's going to get it just because.
Who is the next running back to take down Christian McCaffrey, the next highest paid running back in NFL history?
I think it's going to be probably Saquon Barkley. He means a lot to that Giants offense. I would say Alvin Kamara, but I just don't see that happening. But Saquon Barkley is like on the same level as McCaffrey, not as good as receiving out of the backfield, but like what he means to that Giants offense is top notch.
I'm going dark horse. I think somebody like Leonard Fournette. Just the Jaguars are idiots. They always,
when it comes to the Jags,
they always do stupid stuff. I could really see that happening just cause.
Especially if he has a good year this year, I see it happen.
I'd give Derrick Henry that money before I give it to Leonard Fournette, man.
Oh, I would too. I think the Titans are smarter.
Smarter, and throw all the money at Ryan Tannehill.
Yep.
Well, look, we before we get into our next topic, we were just talking about the value of teams. If you don't have Ryan Tannehill, the Titans don't make the playoffs.
Nope, not at all.
I mean, we can, again, you can make that value argument all you want. I think that he deserved the contract. All right, our final discussion before we get into our interview with Richie Mills. Jay Glazer at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m. Wednesday morning said he has groundbreaking news. It's going to shake the fabric of the world as we know it. A Rams player is diagnosed with coronavirus. Shut up. Half the country has this. Why? At what point is this not breaking news anymore?
Well, I have so many issues with it because, for one, he wasn't just diagnosed with it. He had been diagnosed with it and was recovered. Now, Von Miller has it, according to today, but I mean, that's breaking news. This guy had it for a long time, and then now is recovering. He also didn't say it in his tweet. He said it on his live show that aired at 11 p.m. But he announced that that's where he was going to say it at. So a lot of people think it was just a gimmick to get people to watch a low-rated show on FS1.
He has a show on FS1?
Yeah, it aired at 11 p.m. and that's when he announced it. He said, like, in his tweet that he had like a lot of like breaking news, and then people were speculating on what it was, and then he announced what it was on the show. But the show has low ratings.
I mean, I see no problem with that, getting ratings for it. But I don't know I think it's the idea of using someone who has a disease, not just being the coronavirus, someone who has a disease being what's driving your audience. I don't think that's a very good move on his end.
Yeah, especially in a world, like you said, where everyone seems to have it. Like, this is not uncommon anymore.
What's crazy, though, is, looking all over Twitter, most of the people's arguments against him was that, I mean, he was just hyping it up so much and they're expecting a blockbuster trade, or someone has decided they're going to jump up and get the number 1 pick from the Bengals, and then it's this. Not that the coronavirus is not important, because it obviously is, and someone having it is, but he made it seem all day like, oh my God, this is it. Like, this is the football news from the football gods we've been waiting for since it's kicked off. Finally, something to talk about. And then it's just this. It's not as newsworthy as, something with the draft is. So I don't know. It just befuddles me. Jay Glazer, he's a good reporter. He's a respected journalist. I just don't know why he would do this. I know his ratings were low, but I don't get it.
I like what you said there, that kind of backtracking on your argument and then saying, but the coronavirus is the most important thing. I was listening to an interview with Scott Van Pelt on Pardon My Take. I don't know if any of y'all heard it, but during the interview, Big Cat kind of walked back, missing March Madness, and saying, yeah, but the health is the important thing. Scott Van Pelt said something that I think is so true. Why are we not allowed to just say what we think without also saying, but the coronavirus is a big deal?
Because we can't with the public.
You can't, because you're automatically an awful person.
Yes, if you say that, the public immediately jumps on you and says,
yes,
you don't care about the health of anybody.
Public
opinion, like, that's not what I was saying.
Public opinion is everything.
Now, also, it's a good segue into our interview. The reason that we don't publicize who we're interviewing is sometimes interviews fall through. If you would have known who we had as an interview for Wednesday, or today's Thursday, and then we didn't have him, we look like Jay Glazer. So instead, we settle for our silver medal. Richie Mills, he's a sports reporter in New Orleans for WGNO. We got him for an interview. Can't thank Richie enough. Here's the interview with Richie. Hey, we are now joined with Richie Mills, the second Richie to ever join the show. Richie, thanks for being here.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, big supporter of the program and its for its entire 2-week existence. Richie, you have a cooler job than all of us have. You work for WGNO in their sports department. I really quickly want to talk about, before we get into your journey as a whole, because it's a really interesting one. What is it like? Unfortunately, you've experienced a lot of it during this coronavirus thing. But what's it like working in such a huge sports market?
It's kind of surreal, I mean, you grow up, you watch the Saints, you watch the Pelicans, you become fans of the teams that you're covering. So it's hard to, I guess, look at it in an objective manner, but at the same time, you're so knowledgeable about all of it. Yeah, it gets frustrating at times. I mean, when you see the Pelicans lose by 10 and Zion has 50, or you see the Saints lose by 3 and Breeze has 5 touchdown passes. So it's kind of cool. And then there's also, the high school market down here. There's just so much content. You always have something to cover. You have rugby down here. We did have the Zephyr/Baby Cakes, but we're not going to get into that right now. And so like I said, there's a lot to cover down here, and it's always exciting, especially when you get to put the Southeastern Lions on television. So.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. Where does Southeastern fall in the priority of the New Orleans sports market? Because for me, I grew up on the North Shore. I did not know anything about Southeastern. Where does that lie priority-wise?
So it's all a geographical approach. So you start with the UNO, obviously. You have Loyola, you have Delgado, and then from there you kind of branch out. You got Nichols, gross. Then you have Southeastern, which is great, and then from there you go to Baton Rouge with LSU. So just depends on, I guess, who's hot at the right time. And you hate to say that, but that's pretty much how it goes.
Now, I want to talk about your journey to WGNO, because you have really an interesting story. And for anybody that wants to go into this path, I think that your story is one that a lot of people can relate to. Talk about your first job out of undergrad, because it's one that I think a lot of people that want to be on camera don't necessarily want to jump at.
Yeah, so I obviously wanted to do sports right out of the gates, and that's not possible. I mean, just getting a job in the field is great. So I started as a morning show producer at KATC in Lafayette. top station, Market 120 out there. I actually found out I was pretty good at producing from doing that show. We were getting good ratings, good audiences. Me and the guy I was co-producing with, we won a couple of awards during our tenure there. And then basically just went in and kept my head down, didn't say too much, and I busted my butt each and every day. And once an opportunity opened up, the sports department there was depleted. Pretty much just asked, hey, need someone to fill in right now. I'll be happy to fill in, prove myself on that front. Then they offered me a chance to do it on the news front, did that as well. And yeah, from there, pretty much I just went from there to Shreveport, which that's an interesting market, great market, giant market to cover, always something going on there again. Went there as a news reporter and a sports guy, and ultimately got the call back down here in New Orleans, WGNO, to be a morning show producer again. So I took that path, knowing that it would probably lead to something on camera, and it did a year in. So, I mean, I've been in this field for maybe 4.5 years, 3 different stations, and finally Market 50, got to where I wanted, job I wanted. So, I mean, it's different. It's real. You learn so much, but I'm just saying, if you're coming out of this and you automatically think you're going to get on the anchor desk, you're going to be a sports guy right out the gate, you're going to get to do all the stories you want. You're not. Sometimes it's just not going to happen that way for you. So I think if you keep an open mind and you make yourself more valuable as far as what you can do, what you can learn, what you can show, because just by being a morning show producer, I showed, hey, I can put together a sportscast. They gave me the weekends by myself when I first started over here at GNO, and yeah, blew them away, flawless. Well, not flawless. I am pretty ugly, but don't laugh at that, Richie. But yeah, it's been a weird path. It's been a rewarding path, and definitely one, like I said, for you guys, keep an open mind.
Now, you're a guy who, when we did a March Madness pool, you dominated. What has this been like without having March Madness for you?
Rough, man. I remember I was driving from Jackson, Mississippi, and I kept telling myself, man, it's my off day. It's in the middle of the week. There's nothing to do. It's March Madness, though, so I guess I'll suffer through the LSU Tigers playing in the SEC tournament. So yeah, it's surreal. Basketball is my favorite sport, and I'm not just saying that because it's the lyrics of a song, like Mike. But
God, way to age yourself there.
It's pretty rough though, man. But this is a humbling time, really, because we're pulling stories out of our butt, but they're good quality stories, they're relevant stories, and I truly enjoy doing it. It's a challenge, but it's fun and exciting right now.
Yeah, and that's the final thing I want to ask, and if anybody else has anything to ask, they can. But from your perspective, being a professional, when sports really is your livelihood at this point, what has this been like, being a sports reporter when there are no sports?
Interesting, very interesting. You have to dig. This is truly where, if you're from this area and you know this area well enough, you know what people care about, what they're going to look for, and you know where to look. So for the prep ranks right now, obviously all those seniors, they unfortunately lost their senior year of athletics, but still that's content you can create. You can tell their story, their side of things, because this is uncharted waters, not just for us, but for them as well. And like I said, interesting. You have to dig. It's fun, though. It's fun. It's like a whole new chase. It kind of makes you fall in love with it all over again. And it definitely shows just how knowledgeable you are about sports, how you can tie it back into the area. It's just like a challenge, pretty much.
All right, it's now time, before we get you out of here, Richie, we're going to do the first ever Richie versus Richie throwdown. We're going to see who the better Richie is based upon sports trivia. The first one to 3 correct answers wins. If we get to like 7 and no one gets anything right, then we're just going to end everything. All right. Whoever can answer first will get the point. All right. So here we go. I'm reading off laughgaff.com. Shout out Laughgaff. All right. Can either of you name who the only team to play in every World Cup is?
The Netherlands.
Not the Netherlands. Richie, chance to steal. Solaris.
What about Brazil?
That is correct.
Oh!
That is correct. 1-0. Solaris. How many NBA championships did Michael Jordan win?
6.
That is correct. We're tied up at 1.
But we're throwing some easy pitches out there.
That's what I'm saying. I don't really. That's why I was. Laugh Gaff did not come through with me.
Hey, it's doing just fine right now.
Oh, okay. This is actually a good one. Okay. Which pitcher holds the record for most complete games in a Major League Baseball career? I'll give you choices for this one. You've got Roy Halladay, Cy Young, Nolan Ryan, and Don Sutton.
I'm going Nolan Ryan.
Nope.
Nolan Ryan is not correct.
I'm saying Cy Young.
Cy Young is correct. We're up 2-1, Solaris. What did I say? The first one of 3?
3.
Yeah.
3? Okay, wow.
To be fair, Solaris actually doesn't know these. By no means does he know these.
No, Cy Young. I didn't know. I did not know.
You know the name because it's the name of the award.
I'm doing you a favor by, eliminating one too.
Yeah,
here.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so you
time.
gotta go first.
Take my
You
time.
gotta go first this time. What year did China win its first Olympic medal? Was it 1984, 1936, 1968, or 1952?
Solaris.
I'm gonna say, what was it, 1984? I think.
Okay, 84 is correct. Wow.
This game's rigged.
3-1 victory. Congratulations, Richie. But we're
Thanks,
gonna
buddy.
get Richie Mills. We're gonna get Richie Mills back on the show for round 2 soon. Richie, thank you. Without you, we wouldn't have had an interview today. So thank you. Is there like social media or anything you want to tell the kids about that they can follow you?
Yeah, so on Twitter, I'm at Richie Mills. Pretty simple. And then on the Facebook, I am Richie Mills WGNO. So still trying to build up my social media game here. So don't laugh when you see that I have like 5 followers.
He's a big deal, I promise. It's WGNO sports reporter Richie Mills joining us. Thanks, Richie.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
It's time for our top 3 of today's show. Today we're doing top 3 obscure college football players. Jermaine, I'll start with you.
Okay, so I'm just gonna name off all 3, and if y'all have anything y'all want to ask me about them, I'll just answer that. So my first one is Riley Cooper, former Florida Gator.
Good one.
One of my favorite players back then. Number 2 is Denard
Is
Robinson.
it because of the thing
Of the
that you don't like him anymore?
Well, I'm a big.
You liked him back then, but not.
Yeah. My number 2 is Denard Robinson, former Michigan quarterback.
Boy, his career went to crap when he put on that number 98.
Nope.
That's not him.
Oh, that's not him. That's not him. Never mind. He's obscure too. He's obscure too.
Devin Gardner.
Devin Gardner's career went bad after 98.
Boo! Boo this man.
And my third player he's not really obscure. He had a okay NFL career, not the best, but it's Colt McCoy. I enjoyed watching Colt McCoy. So yeah, those are my 3.
I think he. Here we go, Dylan. I think he's criminally
Here we go.
left off a lot of people's best college quarterbacks list just because he was so bad in the NFL. If he had even a decent, and he's still playing, so I don't know if we can really say he had a bad NFL career. He's on like his 10th year now, but people don't even consider him. And he was awesome. He didn't lose.
Just Alabama.
Just
He got hurt, though.
And Texas Tech.
Yeah.
Shout out Graham Harrell. All right, Dylan.
So my first player, I'll do probably the same as Jermaine. First player is Jordan Lynch, NIU quarterback.
One of mine.
Dude, that dude was insane. In 2 years, he had 6,000 passing yards and 4,000 rushing yards. That's insane.
Northern Illinois was in the BCS.
Yes, bowl because of him.
Yes.
He was crazy. My second one is Kadeem Carey, the running back from Arizona.
Yeah.
Whatever
happened to him?
So he got drafted by the Bears, and it didn't work out. But now he's actually playing for Calgary, in
he's
the CFL.
still playing in the CFL. Okay.
Yeah, but he had a stint where he didn't play for a few years, and then now he's officially of 2019. He was with Calgary.
Oh, okay, good.
And but he was great. My last one is player that played for one of the teams up there is Darren Thomas, the quarterback who helped Oregon into the 2011 BCS National Championship against Auburn. And then
Now-
from there, he went to the Rose Bowl the next year. He forewent his senior year to go to the NFL draft. He did not get drafted, so I don't even know why he even went, because he didn't have a high draft rating anyway. And then now he's played for 7 different teams across like the Canadian Football League, the Arena Football League. So like every year he's been on a different team since.
Yeah, my expertise in arena football can tell you he was a huge signing, obviously, because he played at Oregon. He's one of the worst arena football quarterbacks ever. He's awful. And it doesn't look like he can throw a football. And it's like, what happened? He's still playing though. People keep signing him.
Yeah, every year someone signs him. I think it's just because of the name and because of what he did in college, but he hasn't proven it since.
Yeah. All right, Richie.
All right. I know you guys remember Justin Blackman, Oklahoma State.
Okay. Yeah, good one.
Justin Vincent, LSU's running back in 2003.
Wow, yeah.
One of my favorite. I loved him. He got onto a practice squad with the Steelers and didn't make the team, and that was about it.
That's all he did in the NFL.
Yeah.
Wow. I would have thought that he had a few years in the NFL.
No, he didn't make anything. I watched him in the preseason, pulling for him, but nothing. And the last one, you guys, you'll only know him because you know my alma mater. Damian Williams, quarterback that took Rummel to a first state championship. He got a scholarship to Mississippi State, goes there, can't win the job, ends up transferring to Texas State and couldn't win the job there either, and he doesn't play anymore. But that's probably the most obscure I'll get. It's Damian Williams.
Yeah, that's really obscure that no one knows who that is. I don't know who that is.
That's just like
that's when you go on a depth chart in 2011 and find the third string quarterback on the worst team in college at that time.
If you go and play NCAA 14, Damian Williams is on that roster.
All right, before we get into mine, Jordan Lynch was on mine, so I have a backup. I need to look up his name, though, so I can get his name right. He played with Blake Bortles at UCF. All right, while I'm looking that up, I'll go down mine. This was the one that really jumped out to me was Bo Wallace from Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Beat Alabama, and then no one wanted him in the NFL. I think he went to minicamp with the Chiefs, and that was it. My next one, Jeremy Johnson, former Heisman Trophy candidate. Jeremy Johnson from Auburn.
He got so much hype going into that season.
Yeah, he's playing arena football right now. He also played professional basketball for a little bit too. And I'm still trying to find this guy. If you Google UCF wide receiver, a lot of people show up, so it's not that easy. And my phone's deciding to be really slow right now. Here we go. I'm guessing 2014 is a good year for this. Blake Bortles was there during that year, right?
Yeah.
Here we go. J.J. Wharton.
No, that's obscure. Unless he was the guy that made the one-handed grab against Temple. That's who it is? Okay. That's
J.J. Wharton.
When you said a receiver that went with Blake Bortles, that's the only memory that comes to my head.
J.J. Wharton, who apparently is like the worst human being on the planet. He's been arrested like a bunch.
Wow.
I remember looking him up a few years ago, and I was like really not happy with it. Really disappointed in JJ, whatever JJ stands for. Just not a good time for JJ. All right. Anyway, any other obscure college football players come to mind, guys?
Rolando McClain from Alabama. He was a middle linebacker, got drafted by the Raiders, top 10. Yeah.
Who else is a bust that we could talk about?
Oh, the Kent State running back / receiver.
Dree Archer.
Dree Archer. That's who comes to mind.
That dude was quick, man.
He was so fast.
He had
like 98 speed in Madden, I think.
Yeah. Keith Marshall too. Keith Marshall.
Oh yeah.
So fast,
Keith
man.
Marshall is interesting because he was a quarterback, and then I think he played cornerback in NFL?
No, that's Nick Marshall.
That's Nick Marshall. Okay, who's Keith Marshall?
Keith Marshall was Todd Gurley's backup at Georgia.
That's right. That's right.
No, Nick Marshall. Yeah, Nick Marshall's playing
Him too.
back in the CFL.
That's obscure too.
Really obscure. Yeah. He's the reason why Brian Bennett got to the Senior Bowl. Because he was a quarterback, and at the Senior Bowl, he said, no, I want to play defensive back. So it opened up a spot for Brian Bennett. The more you know. All right. We apologize for this week's show. But on Saturday, we're back to normal. We're back with an energy. We're back with a swagger. We've got another interview coming. Should be a lot of fun. Stay tuned for that. It should be up Sunday. Final thoughts, guys. Anything you want to add on today's show?
Finish Tiger King.
We'll get into that on Sunday then. So there we go. A little teaser for you.
There we go.
Kids. All right. Again, we want to thank Richie Mills for his time. Can't thank him enough. And make sure you're following us on social media, on Twitter, Remote C Sports, on Instagram, Remote Control Sports, and on Facebook, Remote Control Sports. You can listen to the show on Anchor and Spotify. Make sure you're liking and subscribing. It helps us out so much. It takes 2 seconds. Please do it. Anyway, guys, have a great couple of days. We will see you on Sunday.